Okay, so now we're in the third part of VISTA. Vision, we've talked about. Inventory, we've talked about. Strategy. Ha! This is where things get crazy. Because fine, you have a vision of what you want to get, right? You have a vision of where you want to take your business, or you want to take your family, or you want to go as a person. You kind of know what you're talented at. You've got your skill set going, you're kind of ready, you know, you've got your influence here, your network over there, your resources, your talent is on point, your personality is good, your experience is on... But strategy. Taking all those things you know and putting them into something tangible, and that's where everybody fails. So let me try and make it easy for you. Strategy is a couple of things. How, what, why, where, when, and whom. Point number one. Number two in strategy, which is also an important part, is if, so what? Can, then what? But, then what? Because, then what? Let me explain that because it's kind of complicated. Strategy is understanding something from its end to its beginning, not from its beginning to its end. When the gentleman who was creating the light bulb started doing it, he had a view of what he wanted. He wanted something that would glow red hot, but would not burn or blow up like in oxygen or in helium or in hydrogen. So he knew what he wanted the light bulb to look like. He just didn't have the image of the light bulb in his head, but he knew what he wanted it to look like. So when he tried 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 times, he knew what he was looking for before he even created it. So when it happened, he was like, that's it. That's why when you walk into a shop and you look at something nobody has ever sold to you, because of the need that you have, you can be able to point it out. That's it. When you walk up into a clothes store, because you're dark-skinned, tall, lean, you can look at a shirt and say, that's going to look good on me. Strategy is being able to see everything from the end, then to the middle, and then to the beginning. But even inside looking at something from the end and the middle to the beginning, there is an end, middle, and beginning inside each. Let me make this much more practical. Okay. You want to start a salon. The salon at the end, what would you like to see? You want to have some hair that you can be able to sell because, you know, hair is a big deal. You want to be able to have, say, 4 barbers so that you can have fellas to come and get their haircut. That's cool. You want to be able to have 8 saloonists who can be able to do some hair things. You want to be able to have 2 shops, and then where the shop's going to be. You want to have one in the northern side of the city, and then the other one in the southern side of the city. And then you also want to make, for example, let's say you want to make 100,000 or whatever your currency is every month. Cool. So we have that. It's clear. This is the end. But if you look at the end of a strategy, there's so much stuff going on here. So much stuff. At the beginning, though, there isn't very much. So why don't you take this and break it down? Bring it down to the most basic. But because we know the end, we know what the goal is. So in the beginning, at the very beginning of the beginning, we know what are we trying to do? We're trying to start with a salon. So this salon is going to end up doing 100,000 of whatever, dollars, shillings, yen, every single month. So give it a name that makes it sound like that. For example, if I was to call my salon Chico's, it definitely sounds better than calling it Mama Barbara or Baba Barbara's or St. James's Salon's support system of, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Come up with something that everyone's going to, hey, I'm going to Chico's to get my hair done. Understand the brand. Work backwards. If you call yourself St. Thomas Brian's very cool hair and beauty shop thing, no one's going to remember that. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, forget that. If you're building it from the end, it's easier for you to be able to get something that matters. Chico's. Then in the middle, if you're saying you want to have a barber's and a saloonist, it makes sense to call it Chico's because Chico can both be a boy or a girl. Then it also makes sense for you to put it somewhere both men and women access. Don't put it on the 10th floor of a building. Put it on the ground floor. Put it in the basement. Put it in a house in an estate. It makes sense when both men and women can come to it. This is thinking in the beginning, but having the very basics done, having the middle done, and having the end done. If you want to make $100,000 at the end of the month, what is the kind of price range and what is the kind of service you're going to be creating? Then, from the very beginning, create values. that work, get good values, and then also get services that are matter, that are of importance, that matter, that people really want to do. And the most important thing is get the quality, making sure it's consistent and good, that people are going to pay for. Strategy is where you take what you want to do and bring it down here. How do I want to accomplish this end? Like the salon. Break it down. What's the how? How do I want to do it? What is it I want to really do? How do I want to break this down? How do I want to reach out to people? How do I want to impact people through their hair? What do I want to do? Now that you know the how, a salon, what is it that you want to do? I want to offer children, teenagers, and old people's hairstyles. I want to work with hard hair like Tony's hair or soft hair like some lady called Sharon or something. Focus, have a niche, know who you're serving, and then serve just them, not everybody, because you will never be a master of everyone's kind of hair. Why are you doing it? You have to have a really good reason. Because I'm an expert in African style hair, or I am a beautiful weave artist, or I have a big focus on Range Rovers, or I know how to paint portraits of people. Why are you doing it? Be clear on that. Where are you doing it? Listen, if you want to start a mechanics store, do not go to a city full of donkeys. It makes no sense. Find your customer where your customer is at, and then deal with your customer where they are at. Know this in every business. Location, location, location. Be in the right place and be there at the right time. When do you want to start? Now, everybody says the best time to plant a tree 20 years ago, Chinese proverb, or right now. If you're going to do something, I always believe that now is a perfect time to start. Don't give yourself a reason to say tomorrow or the day after my kids, my family, my job, my mortgage, no, do it now. Right now. Start right now. Because every day after right now, you'll regret that you never started it now. And finally, whom are you doing it for? Your customer needs to not be a person or thing out there. It needs to be a person you know, something you can relate to. We all know the Richard Branson story of how Virgin Air started. British Airways was late. I believe that's what I read in the book. And when he and a couple of people came together and said, you know what, we need a solution to our flight problem because we need to get somewhere, Richard walked up to some guy who owned a plane and chartered it and said, hey, how much would it cost for 40 people, I assume that was the number, to fly from one town to another town in your aircraft? The guy was like, oh, I'll charge you $150, or pounds, I think it was. Richard then went back and said, okay, so I've managed to get a plane, and this plane is going to cost us £175 to fly. Everyone was like, yeah, I'm willing to join. What did he do? Picked up the money, got £25 interest on everyone, threw everyone in this plane, and off they went. He had a handsome profit in his pocket because he solved a problem not just one he had, but one the people he was talking to, the people around him had. Make sure you know whose problem you're solving, and it's not just in your head. Because then you're in real trouble if you think it's there and it's not. Once you do this, if so, can't then, but then, because then, helps you be able to create a real plan. If there's so many people who need this support, so what can I do to fill this gap? Can what I'm doing be good enough? Then I can be able to scale it in different towns and cities. But if my idea is so good, then will somebody else steal it? And how can I make sure I keep my niche or I protect it? And because I've got this business idea, then what does that mean for me, my family, my business, my finances? If you're able to understand all the if-sos, can-thens, but-thens, because-thens, and make them clear, you'll always have a plan A, plan B, and plan C, and you'll never be surprised. Strategy is being able to protect yourself from the punches you can see, but also from the punches you can't. That's why whenever people walk into a fight, if you ever got into one, the safest place to be is against the wall. Because you know the wall won't punch you. You'll always be able to hit it back. Bruce Lee said, boards don't fight back. When you're up against somebody who's stronger than you, make sure you have all your bases covered. When you're starting a business, when you're starting to start a relationship, when you're starting a new thing, know your if-sos, can-thens, but-thens, and because-thens. It's important in your strategy for you to be prepared for absolutely anything that can happen, like that mosquito flying in my paper. Once you know what's going on, you'll always be able to know what to do. Let's go on to the next video and see what happens.